Welcome to the Trading with Venus podcast, where we help you establish strong trading habits, generate consistent profits, and create the lifestyle you desire for yourself and your family. Now your host, Raman Gill.
Okay, so how do you break down a trade and how do you look for something? So this is how I do my top-down analysis. So first thing I'm looking at is the daily chart, right? On the daily chart, you have seen me say pullback levels, right? I mark down my pullback levels. So in this case, on this chart, see, this is the level I had marked down. This was here since last night when we did our daily analysis. This is when I put that in there. And this is where it went. Now, it could have gone a little bit higher as well. So it's not, again, it's not a perfect thing. So you look at it, and so I would think to myself, it may go here, it may go over here. So those are the couple of things, areas, and then right here as well. Those are the three areas. Generally, I have three areas in mind that I think it will pull back to. The one that my very first one is generally the pivot point. So if you go take a look at this chart here, if we go to a smaller time frame, so this was a daily, so we go down to 1 hour. See pivot point here? So it has been my experience that when the market is trending, price will play around with the daily pivot. Okay, so usually my first pullback level that I mark is my daily pivot. Okay, so I go to the daily, I look at the pullback level. So I'm looking at not just the pivot point, but I'm also looking at support resistance. And I should say support resistance is number one in my book. Everything else comes after that. So I look at the support resistance here. So I think this is where it's going to pull back. And then I think this is another strong support resistance level. So I will have something like this. I will have in my mind, or I'll have it on the chart. And then you go to a lower time frame and you take a look at what's happening there. Okay, there's the daily pivot point, there's the previous support resistance level. I like this level. And then you watch, right? This is where you sit and watch, and you sit and watch, and you sit and watch till something happens. Now, when you see price coming into this level, that's when I want to go to maybe a smaller time frame, a 15 or a 5, and then I would take a look at what's happening in that area. So in this case, we have our strong support resistance level from the daily chart. Then this was also a strong support and resistance level on the hourly chart. We looked at that already. And now what happens? Price came into this level, daily pivot, it bounced off of it. Came back second time, bounced off, did a third test, and at this point it looked like it was going to go through because we have a wick on the other side. That means this was a green candle at one point, but then it kind of comes and closes like this. That's when I would take a trade. So this here would be the perfect entry for me. So I would take a trade at the close of this candle, right? So you take a trade here, candle closes, take a trade here, stop can go on the other side. I would put a little bit higher just in case. And then what am I looking at? First, I would be looking at this level here. So I would think, okay, price is going to, because this is where it had trouble last time, right? So I would think this, right? So it did struggle, went back, and then now it's breaking down. So this will be the first take profit target, and then this is your main one. This is my main take profit target, but I would look at the trade at this level and see how it's doing. The second area would be this right here, because I would think, oh, it could struggle in this level. So I would keep an eye on it and see what happens. If it just stalls out, starts to go sideways, I would take it out. Doesn't matter what the risk to reward ratio is, because, hey, you know, it's better not to get your preferred risk to reward ratio. The more important thing would be to take the profit, right? Trading is about making money, not how perfect things are. So I would just take it out here. If it stalls out, maximum, this is the target. So my take profit would be somewhere over here. Right, so that's how I would break down a trade. So first I would take a look at the daily. And I want from the daily, I want my direction. So yesterday, the bias was to the downside. So my bias is to the downside, right? Then I will look at where the potential pullback would be, because generally there will be a pullback. Not always. Generally, when the momentum is really strong, there may be no pullback like this one, right? Momentum was super strong. It just took off. So there was no pullback. But generally on a normal day, you would get a pullback, and pullback tends to happen into the pivot point for the most part. Again, this is not a perfect science. Usually, just based on experience, it tends to pull back into the daily pivot, which is, it's just kind of a Fibonacci pullback level. And then I would look for that particular, and you can set up alerts, right? You can set an alert here. So if you don't want to limit order, you can set an alert, and then and then you watch it here. So you don't need to watch this entire time. You just need to watch when the price is at the level that you are wanting to take the trade. So once you do that, and then if it looks good, so this is where I would go into a lower time frame and see what's happening, right? Because on different time frame, things will look different. So I don't normally trade from a 5-minute chart anymore, but I would delve deeper and take a look at a 5-minute chart when things are at the level that I am. Because if let's say price is here and this is where I was expecting it to turn, and this is going full on in the opposite direction, I'm just going to sit out, right? So that would not be a good place to take a trade. So then you find your level, first you find your direction, second you find your level that basically is on multiple time frames. So I would not mark my support resistance level on a 5-minute generally, because it's weak. So I generally like to get it from like a 4-hour daily. Daily is my preferred. 4 hours fine. 1 hour, and then I go down. Then you wait for the setup, right? So the taking trades, when you looking for entries, how to find the best entries would be to take a step back. And it's like, before you dig, let's say you're putting up a fence. So before you start digging to put the stakes in the ground there, you're going to mark it out, right? Because you would be, okay, this is where it needs to line up properly. So you go mark those spots, and then you start digging on those spots, right? So we're not going to randomly start digging. Like, we're not going to make those adjustments while we are digging. So we'll mark everything up, and then we start digging. So this is exactly what we do with our trade planning. We figure out where we think things will be, and sometimes it will be completely wrong, so we don't enter a trade, right? Or it, let's say, goes into the other direction, gives us a really big bullish candle, then the other strategy would come into play. So what is that strategy? That strategy would be, the strategy would be that it closes on the other side here, so it turns bullish, right? Now we have this inefficient move. So we're going to be going up to this R1 level, right? And this is where you make adjustments as you go. This is similar to driving. We have a plan, everything is nice and dry, and then a storm comes through. We're going to change our strategy, because you can't drive through the storm the same way you would drive on a completely dry day, clear weather, everything's perfect, right? So that's how we change. We do need to adjust. So if you're a beginner, or when you're a beginner, what you want to do is, you don't want to be in the mess. Like, you just don't want to be in the mess. So you want to look at, like, draw your plan and then sit patiently and be okay with not finding a trade, because there will be days when you will find some awesome trades and you will make up your entire week's profit in one trade, right? But it will not be every day. So even as let's say you're a fisherman, you're going fishing, you're not going to catch the big one every single day. And some days you're just not going to catch anything. And same thing for a business as well, right? We all work in a business, whether you're working for someone or owning the business. Some days customers just line up. Other days you're like, oh my God, where is everybody? Mm-hmm. Right? And so there will be times, and what happens is, as you get experience, so start here, because it's better to get less trades, but get good trades, because that will build confidence. And as you build confidence and as you build experience, then you're able to deviate from the plan a little bit. And this is where, like, I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to take a trade here, right? Sure, but if you were going to look at it as a beginner, you're not going to see that. But for me, I know once it hits a certain, it's like you're pushing the ball uphill. Once it gets through a certain point, it's going to drop, right? So it's the same thing, but you don't need to do that. So don't worry about that. So what you need to do is first find some really good, like go with support resistance. I'm telling you, the simplest strategy and the best strategy. So go with support resistance, find the good level, and then find it on, this is where you can go on multiple charts. Let's say you're doing all the dollar crosses, or you're doing a dollar cross and a yen cross, right? So then you basically periodically flip through them, but, or set alert, right? Set your alerts. This is where it's going to be. And so start with that. So it's a one step, like a step-by-step process. It's not going to be completely like all in a day, you will learn everything. You're not. So the most important thing to learn that will make the most or provide the most benefit to you would be to find it, to find this first, right? Find good levels, watch them, set an alert, and watch how price. So watching charts actually is a really good practice. So when I first started trading, one of my mentors, or the people that I learned from, the course that I took, was said that all the time. He'd be like, go to your 5-minute chart and watch the chart. Watch the chart. He would say that all the time. Look at how the supporters price is reacting to support resistance, right? And what happens is, as you're watching the chart, you will start to see things, right? That's the same thing as you start, if you sit by the side of the road and start watching traffic, you will start to pick out traffic patterns, right? You will know that when somebody comes to this spot, they always do this, right? And and again, if you find somebody who's usually sitting, generally you'll see like older people are sitting by the somewhere, they'll be sitting and they can tell you what happens over there all day, right? And you'd be like, oh my God, I never noticed this. Where was I? Well, you weren't sitting there, right? Or you weren't sitting there paying attention because you were probably walking by there and there were a million things going on in your mind, right? So this place to start, if you're looking to figure out how to find the best entries, would be find your levels, mark the levels, set an alert, and then watch price as it reacts. And then you look for the pattern. So pattern comes at the very end. So in this case, we have like a triple top or a double top pivot point. So you get confluence, and anytime you have confluence of different things coming together, becomes a high probability trade.
When it comes to position size, in order to put a one lot, what sort of account size do you recommend?
So for one lot, I generally say $10,000.
Okay.
Yes. And this is the thing that we need to get really good at, right? So scaling account, like the most important thing about this business is how you can scale this business, right? Which we tend to forget. Most people will try to get most amount of profit from a small size account, right? And then we try to run a marathon every single day. Well, you're not going to win in the long run if you're running a marathon every single day, because you're going to kill your knees and your body, right? So what we need to do is we need to get really good at running that 1 mile, right? And then that mile becomes so easy, then we can put 100 pounds on our back and run the mile like it's nothing. And that's the scalability, where you are still making the 20 pips, but now you got 20 lots on you, right? And you won't flinch, because really it's just 20 pips, right? But most people will try to make 100 pips every day because the account size is too small, right? So you're trying to hit the dollar target. But what I'm saying is, don't worry about the dollar target with a small account. It's not going to happen. You take a little Toyota Corolla and you try to compete against the Formula 500 cars. It is not going to happen. It'll be bye-bye. The thing can accelerate faster than you, like just getting off of the line, the starting line. You will get left in the dust, right?
That's true.
And we understand that, right? And we know that. And if we saw, so what would you think if somebody came with their little Toyota Corolla and you had all these fancy cars lined up and there was your little Corolla? What are we going to do? I would be laughing at the person, like, not to be mean, but it'd be like, dude, go for it. I'm with you, but man, so I'd be like, kudos, dude. But the chances of winning, I'm like, I'm going to put my money on the one who has the biggest car. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
So that's the reality of our trading as well. So what we need to do is, so how can that person with a little car, so let's take a look at it. How can that person win, right? So the way that person will win is to find things that others cannot do with big accounts, right? So if you have a small account, small size, we go less, right? Because we're not going to burn our tires then. We're not going to kill ourselves in trying to compete with others. All we say is we're going to keep doing this and we're going to get so good at this particular thing that people will line up. And this is where in the business concept, you're talking about niching down, right? You get really good at one thing, and that one thing can then make you millions, right? Because you're so good at it. So this is why we don't need to find 20 different trades. We just find one thing and just do it over and over again. So whether you pick one pattern and that completely works for you, but the patterns will only work at good levels. So if you want to get good at something, so exercise, so here's the thing. So homework exercise, right? Find your levels and then watch the price at those levels. And that's how you would improve your entries. Mark these levels every day, right? Set an alert. Right? You can set your alert in MT4, whichever platform you can set it. And then price comes there, you sit there, grab a cup of coffee. Let's watch showtime, right? So not trying to take, so you can't try to win and learn at the same time.
Yes.
So that's another thing.
We have a practical thing on the same chart. You can see it's kind of reversing.
Yep.
So I can't tell if that's a reversing or it's gonna be a pullback. What's the condition to know if it's that a pullback or reverse? So
right now we don't know, right? So we watch.
So what are you watching exactly?
So right now I'm watching how price So now with this one, I would think this is the first spot I'm gonna watch, right? If it goes through this, then the second spot is like over here. Third spot is over here, right? So I'm watching. If it goes through this,
you are in the deal already. You are in the deal already.
Yes.
So how can you manage? And even now you are dealing with the 5-minute chart.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like the what's the worst? You lose money. Like and
yeah, I know, but how to get money?
Right, but the thing is though, in order to get money, you have to be prepared to lose money.
Yeah, I know.
Right? So it's like, okay, you start a business and you think this is how it's going to go down. And if it doesn't, well, you're out, right? And this is why you take a smaller risk. So smaller trade size. So if it doesn't go in your direction, it's okay, right? That's just part of trading.
Yeah.
So you won't be, yes, it will be, sometimes it just won't work out. Like, I don't like the price action right now. It's got too much momentum. All right. It's got too much energy right now.
Volatility.
Yeah. It's not conducive to a short trade right now. Right. But I'm not going to do anything about it. We just watch and see what it goes. And if you don't like it, you get out of it. Done. So we're not going to sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So, because what will happen is it will do this all the time. I mean, look at it, right? Back and forth, it will drive you crazy. So this is why we set our stop loss, and now then we're done. Either that, or you sit here and watch it, and when you feel like it's not working, we're just done then. But if you sit and watch, right? So best chart to watch is a 5-minute chart in order to learn price behavior. But you want to watch it but the levels that you're going to watch will likely come from the longer time frame.
Okay.
All right, so over here, look what happened, right? This is the level that we had talked about where it could get in trouble here, and this is exactly what happened. So things like that happen, and you just have to be prepared for it. At this point, you can say, I tried it, didn't work, move on. Or you can say, let's see how it reacts. And then if it completely blows through everything, well, then you're done. Right? But don't stress over it, because we can't control every roll of the dice, right? This is just how it is. Some days are just not good trading days. Today is not the look at it. It hasn't done anything.
Like I just got out when I found the second green candle.
So this one here?
Yeah. No, the first, yeah. I got out.
So this is a bullish engulfing candle.
Exactly.
Right?
I got out with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was totally fine, but I got out.
Because that's now your bullish engulfing candle. Right after bullish engulfing candle, you're looking for a follow through.
But this is a 5-minute chart, so
yes,
you can't depend on that.
Right.
Right.
Right. You cannot depend on it. So if you go to a 1-hour chart, right, that's a very bearish candle. Short. But see how it's going right into this support resistance level, right? Yeah, and what happened with these previous candles? They went back up. So this was a nice bearish candle, and look how it pulled back, right? Look how it pulled back.
As a bearish candle, this one?
This one? Yes, this.
The bigger one?
Yeah.
But
that's a very bearish candle.
We had like 3 candles, the green candles and the long wick. It's too strong on the 1 hour.
On the 1 hour, it's very strong. So if you were going to trade this on the 1 hour, you want to be taking a trade where price went right here. Right? Because this is your support resistance level, right? So if you have a very strong 1 hour candle, you can wait for a pullback and see how it will pull back right into the support. See, this is a strong support resistance level right there. There was a pin right there.
I took it here, and my profit target was near the resistance, but it didn't work out, so I got out. Then I found it's reversing. I got on the other side, but not.
See, that's too much for me. That's too much, right?
Yeah,
I don't go back and forth.
Yeah, because I don't know if it's gonna be like a pullback or it's just like I'm still figuring out how to do it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm still trying.
Yes,
because
and
the
it takes time.
Your way, you're gonna take it till resistance, but it didn't work out, so I closed it. Yeah, when I found it on the 5-minute or the 15, it's reversing. I took the reverse, but I was too slow on taking it, even though like I didn't take too many pips. So I was like watching it, what's happening with it. So I know, because I have to figure out if it's like a pullback for another leg higher or this is reversing. So that's what I'm struggling with, even with those.
See, I find playing both sides of the market, then it becomes difficult.
I don't like to do it, but that's what looked like to me. So that's why I did it.
No, but then you don't have to go back. Like I always expect pullbacks, right? But that's based on experience. So this is why you want to watch the charts and see how without putting money on it. So when you watch the charts without putting money on the trade, you learn. When you watch the charts and you have money in the trade, it doesn't work because your focus is too much on the money. It doesn't matter how small the amount of money it is. It's just how it is. We are, you know, we as human beings, money
You're
is,
gonna play games with me.
yeah. So this is why I wouldn't, like, to learn, I would say watch the 5-minute chart and see how
Okay.
price reacts, right?
Mhm.
Do it. So as you do it, and even as, like, let's say you're looking for trades, so let's say you're trading the London session, you said, right? So as you are trading the London session, you sit here and you watch, right? Just watch. Just watch. You're not doing anything. It takes patience, right? You're not trying to get into a trade. You're just watching, and so you keep your levels, the main levels, but otherwise you just sit and watch, and it will be interesting how you will start picking out the price behaviors, right? But I wouldn't suggest going on both sides of the trade, because then you're not learning,
Mhm.
right? Then you're
Okay.
just gambling. You're just in the flow of it, and you don't really know. So right now, as a new trader, you would not know totally, right? So don't put money on it.
Okay.
So pick one direction, right? And then
Mhm.
watch it, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it would be right, sometimes it would be wrong, but just watch it, and it's the experience, then you will start to see it. So what happens a lot of time in trading, again, is we start worrying about making money before we actually learn the trade, right? So same thing about, we were talking about driving, competing in sport, in the race car. Like a person who's just learning. I was watching a racing movie the other day. There was a little 16-year-old girl who wanted to learn how to, race. Anyway, her dad used to do that. She was doing that. So the person, when you are learning to when you're learning to drive the race car, you're not going to compete in the biggest and the baddest race car, right? Like in the tournament, you're going to compete in your local events, right? You're going to compete against your friend. Let's see how we do, right? So this is the same thing. We don't want to put too much money on it. That's too much pressure. Like if this person went and competed with, these Formula 500 cars, she's not going to win. First of all, she doesn't have a car to compete, right? There's no way she's going to win. She's going to get killed. So don't even go there. First, compete in the smaller arena, which means you don't put money on everything. You just practice.
Mhm.
So because that's how you get better at anything, is you practice, 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 and then you start taking small risk.
Mhm.
But don't put money. When you're putting money on every single thing, you're not going to learn, because what happens is you get frustrated, you get stressed, and
Yeah.
you learn to zero.
Mhm.
Right.
You learn negative.
You learn
Not good.
negative. You're very right, actually. And that negative, it's funny, gets ingrained more in your mind, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you keep repeating the negative because that's what you keep reinforcing.
Mhm. Exactly.
It
Um,
becomes a bad habit.
it becomes a bad habit. Absolutely. So what we want to do, so just to reiterate, first thing, you go to your daily chart and you look at the direction. What is the direction, right? Sometimes there will be a clear direction, and those are the ones that we want to look at, the ones that we have clear direction in. And then we look for the pullback level. Where do we think the pullback will be? Generally, it will be based on support resistance level. So here, this is where we had marked it yesterday, and see how it, and even look at the profit target, went right into that profit target, into 133. That was our profit target, went right into it, right? So you mark where the pullback will be, where the profit target will be, or the next level where you think it's going to go to. Then you go to a smaller time frame and see what's going on at that level. So here we see there's previous support resistance level, there's a pivot point right there. Perfect. So then set an alert, right? And when price gets to that level, so set it just before it gets to that level so that you have time to get there. So then go there and watch price. And then you're waiting for the pattern to set up. So once the pattern sets up, you take your trade. And then if it stalls out right here, you get out of it. Forget the 2 to 1, whatever. just get out of it, because that would be, it could go do whatever. So that's what we were going to do. Now, if you're trading the longer term, then you would have to wait and see what happens. So this one here, it's pulling back. So chances are it's going to pull back higher. It doesn't look so good right now. And then, yes, and sometimes trade will work out, other times it won't, right? It could be a perfect setup. Some days it just doesn't do anything. Like look at the euro yen, it's still sitting there after 10 hours, right? Some days it's just not going to do anything, and other days it just works out in a snap. And we have no control over that. All we can do is we can plan properly, we can enter the trade, we can manage it, and then it's not up to us.
But that's what I'm looking for. How I take
how to enter the trade. Yes, so this is how you would enter the trade.
How I look at it, how I can know this one is reversing, I had to get out, this one I had to be more patient on it. So that's what I'm still lacking.
Right, so the only way to get better at that would be, first you take your profit and you sit out and you watch.
Yeah.
Right, don't go in the opposite direction though, because then you're not learning, because now you're stressed out in the opposite direction. And then as long as you have taken your profit, be okay with that, right? Hey, we have profit. It's one step forward, right? Because what it'll do is it'll pull back and then drop 100 pips in your direction, right? And that happens all the time. So be okay with that, right? So either you have to be okay with leaving your stop where it is and let the stop be hit, right? Or you have to be okay with taking it out and just sitting on the sidelines and not participating in the market. The problem happens is either when you don't put a stop in, which is my biggest problem, right? Because I wouldn't put the stop in, and that caused me a lot of heartache, because I would want to do it. I like to watch charts, right? Nowadays, I just put my stop in and be done with it. So you just take a smaller size, and that's just how it is, right? Part of it is just you lose. So we can't have everything line up, right? We can't have the perfect setup. We can't have the perfect 2-to-1, 4-to-1. We can't have like no pullbacks and it just goes in our direction. No, it's just like, it's never perfect. But what will happen is the more you do it, the more you watch. So not money. When you're writing, when you have money on it, it doesn't work as well. That's my personal experience. But when you're just watching it, because you have no skin in the game, right? So you'll be fine. So you'll watch. So now it had a lot of momentum here. Now the momentum's not there anymore, right? And so once the momentum, and these are the type of things you start to recognize. Once the momentum is not there, then it's going to drop. So which we don't know, it may or may not. So we'll just let it run and see how it goes. But I would just watch. And that's the only way you're going to learn what it's going to do. Because what will happen is then you will have probabilities. Again, you won't know for sure. You would have probabilities, right? Because we never know for sure. Nobody can tell you if it's a pullback or is it going to be a reversal, right? Not possible, because we don't know the future. But what we can say is, based on our experience, 5 out of 10 times this happens, or 8 out of 10 times this happens. And because the odds are higher in our favor, so we can do X.
Okay.
So that's how that works, basically.
How can I know, like, what are my rules to know if this is a pullback or like, how can I know? How can I judge it? How can I see it? That's what I meant. I accept the probability that that even my setup can go wrong, but how can I know it? Because like, what's the range of the pullback that I will look for, or will allow to go on this?
So I think the first step, so it kind of goes back to where we started with this conversation first, right? What is your goal? right?
Yes.
And don't deviate from your goal, right? So what will happen is you'll find that if your goal is to make 100 pips and you're consistently making 100 pips and not worrying, it's super uncomfortable to begin with, right? It is super uncomfortable for me too, because I just want to keep on going, right? But you say, okay, this is my goal, and then you're looking to see if your goal is going to get hit. It puts things into different perspective, right? So think of it like a job, right? You go there, you need to work X amount, and you make X amount of money in return for that. So this is the same thing. Your goal is to make 100 pips a week. You're at 20. Okay, how do I get to 30? How do I get to 50? So that's what you need to focus on. So then you will be looking at this in relation to that, right? So this is when you will start looking at, okay, so you don't care whether it's a pullback or a reversal, because all you care about is, where is my best trade that I can take? Well, it's going to be over there. So let's look there, right? And
Yeah.
don't fill around with this.
Let's say I took the trade over there, like after
At
three
the top?
Yeah,
Or
after
this?
3 candles. Let's say
Right.
after.
Yes. Yeah.
So right now, when we get on the, like, if I see it after a while and it's going sideways, I will need to get out.
Yeah, you can get out here, right? Or you can get out here.
Isn't that just like a pullback to get like a lower leg? As you see it,
Excuse me.
it's continued like a lower leg.
Right, but we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know. So right now, I don't know whether this is a pullback or a reversal. And there's no way
The
of
first
knowing.
one or the second one?
No, this one here.
Okay, because the first one, if we are talking about the first one,
yeah,
it's, even though it's still acceptable, it's like 50% of the whole move.
Yeah, but how, like, this could have continued going.
Yes.
Right.
So
you have to decide which one you're okay with. Are you the type of person who needs to book the profit? Then I would say, once you see this is a tweezer bottom type of setup, right? You see this, that's a reversal. Get out, right? Because you are the one after this. Because what are you looking at here, right? Let's take a look at it. So here we are looking at twice. That's a double bottom.
Yes.
Right? Twice the price got rejected, and now we have a nice bullish engulfing, or with the pins in the bottom candle, that shows that price may go higher. Again, may go higher. We don't know if it will go higher, right? So if it's going to bother you, if price went all the way back here, then you take the profit and you wait, right? And then you're done. Right? If it goes like this, then you're done. There's nothing you can do about it. So I wouldn't suggest going in and out of trades too much. Then basically you're making money for the broker, right? They want you to go in and out, because every time you go in and out, that's when they make the money, right? So what I prefer to do is I will put my stop there, and I would just let it run. Right? And then you're okay. And then sometimes it will go all the way back and take your profit, like take your stop.
Yeah.
And then that's that, right?
It will go on your way. And eventually it will go on your way.
Yeah. So what I have found is, if your market direction is correct, for the most part, it will pull back and then go in your direction. So that's why I don't get too jittery about it, right? Like, my problem would be more managing the stop. This is why I have to put the stop, because I cannot manage it in the real time, in the sense of, and this is why you have to get to know yourself, right? So if I don't put stops in the long term, it's not a good idea for me, right? So that's why, like, I am becoming more fanatic about stops now than I ever was before, because I've learned, like, I've been hurt from that, because you think you will be able to make that rational decision. You can't, right? When things are completely going in the opposite direction. So the most important, like the best time to make a rational decision is when you're not in the trade. And that's what you are doing as well. When you go in and out, that's not sorry about that. Ooh.
That's fine.
Yeah, so when you're going in and out, that's not a rational decision. That's an emotional decision, and we want to move away from those, right? And the only way to move away from them is to say, okay, cut down. Like if you're afraid, the reason you are getting out here would be you're afraid that you're going to give everything back, right? That means your trade size is too big. So cut it, keep cutting it till you're okay with it going in the opposite direction.
Okay.
All right. So then what will happen is you'll be like, it's 5 cents. I don't care. And then you sit and watch. And what will happen is over time, you will get really good at getting those 20 pips a day or 100 pips a week, right? And then you load the boat. But you don't want to load the boat till you know for sure. So even with this, you don't know, right? But you are comfortable. I'm comfortable that I know 7 out of 10 times it will come back, right? And then 30% of the time you give it back, right? But you wouldn't know that. Like, I don't know for sure if this is even going. Like I would like it to come down here, right? But I don't know. I don't even know if it's going to come down here at this point, because there's no real momentum at this point in the market. Right? So we don't know. It's like if anybody says that, no, we don't know, because we don't have a crystal ball. All we can do is just watch and have a smaller size that you don't feel the need to go in and out. And just watch. Okay?
Okay. Nice.
All right. Sounds good. So we will wrap it up here. And I will post this video if you want to listen to it again. And I'll post some more stuff in the rules and stuff later today, maybe tonight in the group.
All right. Thanks, Ron. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. So you guys have a wonderful day and wonderful night to you, Milan. And
Yeah,
I will see you
thanks.
next time
See you
or
next
later
time.
today. Yep. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
If you want consistency in your trading, we invite you to join our daily market analysis calls, where we provide the levels to find the best entries and targets on an intraday basis. For a 1-week free trial, please visit www.tradingwithvenus.com. Thanks for joining us today. With much gratitude, your show host, Raman Gill.